All right, let's just jump right in. For the last 20-something years, the rules for getting found online have been pretty straightforward. But that is all changing. And I mean changing fast. We are in the middle of a massive shift, moving away from good old SEO to a brand new playbook called Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO. This is your guide to what that means for 2026 and beyond.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the new reality we're in. This isn't about some minor algorithm update. We're talking about a fundamental change in philosophy. The goal now is to shift your entire strategy away from chasing clicks and toward becoming the definitive source that AI engines trust and, most importantly, cite. So, to really get where we're headed, we've got to look back for just a second. That whole era of driving traffic at all costs, what the source material calls the click economy, yeah, that's officially over. A totally new model is here, and honestly, the stakes could not be higher. Okay, look at this. This lays it all out plain and simple. The goal isn't clicks anymore. It's to be the source. Your key metric isn't traffic. It's your share of voice inside the AI's actual answer. We've gone from a world of 10 blue links on a page to a world of zero-click synthesized answers.
And this is where it gets a little scary. The research has a name for this, the visibility cliff. It's a perfect way to describe the risk. We're walking into a winner-take-all game where, if you're not at the top, you're predicted to become statistically invisible to the AI. If you're not the source, you might as well not even exist online. All right, so we get the problem. It's a big one. But what's the solution? Well, welcome to what we're calling the citation economy. Now, we're going to break down how these AI search engines actually think and how they find their information. It all starts with something called the training phase. This is where the AI basically reads, well, the entire internet to learn how things are connected. You can think of it like a giant long-term branding campaign. Your goal here is to drill it into the AI's head that your brand is the expert on your topic. So, that brings us to the real meat of this explainer, the new rules. I mean, if we're playing a totally new game, we need to know how to score, right? These are the ranking factors that truly matter for generative engine optimization. For decades, PageRank was everything. It was all about backlinks, right? That was the gold standard for authority. So the million-dollar question is, what's the new PageRank? What is the single most important signal in this new AI-driven world? And here's the answer. The data from a massive study is just crystal clear. Branded web mentions have a super strong correlation with AI visibility. We're talking 0.664. Now compare that to the old king, backlinks, which have a weak, almost non-existent correlation of 0.218. The data doesn't lie. What people say about your brand is now way more important than whether they link to you. Let's put that into perspective for a second. A simple, unlinked mention of your brand, just your name in the right context, is now almost 3 times as powerful as a classic backlink. That is a seismic shift. We're moving away from link building and into the world of digital PR and just being a known entity. Okay, on to the second big factor. It's a really cool mechanism called query fan-out. Here's the deal. When you ask an AI a big, complex question, it doesn't just go search for that exact phrase. It's much smarter. It breaks your question down into a bunch of smaller, more specific subqueries and searches for all of them at the same time. Here's a perfect example. A user asks a really broad question, like, is now a good time to buy a house in Austin? The AI fans out that query into specific little searches for things like mortgage rates, housing inventory levels, and property tax forecasts. It then gathers all those little answers to build its one big, synthesized response. And this is why it matters so much. The research found that pages ranking for these smaller, fan-out subqueries are a staggering 161% more likely to be cited in the main AI answer. That's huge! The takeaway here is crucial. To win the big query, you absolutely have to answer all the small questions first. The third key factor is a bit technical, but it is absolutely vital. We're talking about technical legibility. Your content has to be perfectly structured for a machine to read it. Using proper semantic HTML gives the AI these clean, understandable chunks of data. But if you rely on what developers call div soup, just a mess of generic tags, you're creating a noisy, confusing blob that the AI is probably just going to ignore. So what does that mean in practice? Well, these AI algorithms, they love certain tags.
Headings create clear sections. Lists create these bite-sized, extractable facts. Tables are perfect for any kind of comparison, and these things called definition lists are ideal for answering "what is" type questions. This, right here, this is the new technical SEO. Okay, so we've got the new rules down. But how do we actually put them into practice? One of the most surprising findings from all the research is that there is no one-size-fits-all strategy. You have to optimize for each specific AI platform.
And this breakdown is just fascinating. Google's AI leans on its own ecosystem, YouTube, Reddit, and the top 10 search results. Perplexity AI is more like a research librarian. It loves academic papers and niche blogs. And ChatGPT, it's looking for consensus from major news outlets. They all have different biases, and that means they all demand completely different strategies.
Okay, let's bring it all together. What is the actual playbook for 2026? How do you reorient your entire marketing effort to actually win in this new citation economy?
It really boils down to these three pillars. First, entity dominance. You have to be mentioned so often in authoritative places that your brand becomes a core part of the AI's knowledge. Second, technical precision. Build your content with clean code so it's super easy for machines to parse. And third, strategic depth. Cover all those little fan-out queries so you can become the source for the big picture answers.
And this right here is the fundamental mindset shift. If you take one thing away from this entire explainer, let it be this. The game is no longer about getting someone to click a link. The game is about earning a citation, being credited as the source of truth directly in the answer.
So I'll just leave you with this question. As AI completely reshapes how we all find information, you have to decide. Will your brand adapt and evolve to become the answer, or will it get left behind on the wrong side of that visibility cliff? The choice and the work, well, it starts right now.